Hi, my name is Joe Ricards, and today we have the rare and special privilege of talking to Arthur, an American man that's been in search of love, in search of an amazing wife in the Ukraine for over 10 years. And unfortunately, despite blowing over 10 grand on email writing alone, today remains lonely and unmarried. You know, when I met Arthur in a little cafe here in Sumy, Ukraine, we hit it off right away. He was just really open and raw and real with me. And we bantered back and forth on, this ugly industry, as you'll find out in this video, the marriage agency or the mail order bride industry, and how it's fraught with cons and scams. And he shared with us all the mistakes and all the ways he's been frauded and scammed in his 10 years and meeting over 100 women. So when I shared with Art my mission to do this video interview series, mostly with Ukrainian ladies, to uncover the truth, uncover what would be the path of success for the foreigner to come to the Ukraine and stack the deck for their success. He said, Joe, I'm happy to help. If I can help foreigners avoid the costly mistakes, avoid getting their heart broken many times, I'd be happy to help. So he's agreed to talk to us today, which is totally rare to be able to, have a man open up his heart and pour out his experiences being vulnerable like this. So I shared with Arthur my mission, my goal, and my story of how when I came to the Ukraine, I was jaded and skeptical beyond. I had seen all the YouTube videos and, read in the forums all of the gold diggers, the conning women, the scammers, the bad agencies. And so I was petrified when I came. And I went to agency after agency after agency. And I basically did my own research and tried to discover the real truth behind what is the marriage agency or the mail order bride industry. And I found the only way I could get to the hidden truth was by talking to tons and tons of Ukrainian ladies. And the interesting thing is, as I talked to well over 30 for well over an hour each, there was a common theme. I would say 80–90% of the questions that I asked them started coming up the same. So there's a common theme. And then I said, I really should expose this industry for what it is and uncover the ugly truth of this industry. And how can I do that? Who's going to believe what? If they hear it directly from unbiased Ukrainian women who are married, never been to the agencies, some been to the agencies, you're going to hear in this video interview series, I call it Confessions of a Scammer. This is a lady that worked inside one of these agencies for years, and her job was conning and scamming and milking Western men for all they're worth, kind of thing. And you'll hear her break down and lose it as she talks about one man that she broke his heart, one client. That's when she quit her job and left this industry for good. You're going to hear from a lot of ladies, and I'm going to ask them, is it true? Is there a ton of lonely, beautiful, sophisticated, sexy Ukrainian women that are just looking for a good man to have a family with? They don't care if he's Ukrainian or Western, but they can't find a good man to marry between the ages of 28, let's say, and 40. More than you could possibly imagine. You'll hear from the ladies themselves in these interviews. It's true. So that begs the question, why does this industry, the marriage agency or the mail order bride industry, why does it make its money conning and scamming Western men out of their money when there's women that come into these agencies looking for a good man? Yes, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of scammers in there too that have, not pure intentions. And the trick is finding the diamonds in the rough, if you will, especially when the agencies don't have the goal of doing legitimate matchmaking for happiness and for happy family, happy life. That's the trick. In this video series, we're going to endeavor to uncover all the frauds and scams so you can see where the landmines are, so you can now avoid them. And we're going to endeavor to pave the path for your success. Show you that you can indeed go to the Ukraine and meet the most amazing woman and marry her, and she will rock your world in more ways than you can possibly imagine. It's true, this opportunity exists. So you're going to see that in this video interview series. You're going to hear from Arthur right now, and he's going to reveal all his costly mistakes. And he's going to give you pearls of wisdom, gold nuggets of advice that you absolutely don't want to miss out on, and you absolutely need to know before you ever go to the Ukraine in search of love, in search of a wife. That said, that's the intro. Let's talk to Arthur. Arthur, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. It's good to be here.
You know, I want to thank you, seriously, genuinely, for being willing to talk about this deep-hearted subject. You've been in the Ukraine looking for love for 10 years.
Almost 10 years.
10 years. And you're genuinely looking for a life partner to settle down, get married.
Yes, absolutely.
You're even willing to move to the Ukraine for the right girl?
Yes.
Because some of them want that?
Indeed they do.
Or immigrate them to America. And you've agreed to share your story. And thank you very much.
My pleasure.
There's going to be so many other foreigners that can learn from your, as you say, costly, painful mistakes over the years. Because when a foreigner comes here for the first time, or even the nth time, there's so many mistakes they can make. There's so many problems in the industry. It's such a big industry riddled with frauds and scams.
It is.
Right?
It is.
So one of the things we're going to do, maybe we can start by exposing the ugly truth about the marriage agency industry, the mail order bride industry in the Ukraine.
At least in my experience, I can share what my experiences are.
Let's share our experiences. You want to go first?
Sure.
Just banter back and forth.
Yeah, that sounds good. One of the, I think, the biggest fraudulent aspects is the letter writing schemes, of course. The whole promotion of those particular sites is to milk the foreigner for as many letters as possible, 6 to 8 to 10, 12, $15 a piece, depending. Some ladies get a real high price for their letters.
Right.
And the longer they can keep you writing letters, the more money they make, and it costs them nothing really to write back and forth. And
yeah, because they pay the girls almost
nothing. And in my experience, what I've learned is that most of the letter writing is not done by the girl herself. In fact, she rarely even knows you're writing to her. It's generally a paid interpreter, a young man or a young woman who is actually doing the answering. And
a young man, you said?
Oh, yes.
So it can be a man actually responding on behalf of Olga or Sveta, this beautiful model picture you're looking at. And you got
and you're bearing
Igor.
You're bearing your soul
to Igor.
To Igor, yeah. And you're going, afterwards you feel dirty in a way. I mean, when I found it out, it felt really kind of uncomfortable.
To say the least.
Yeah. And I actually, it hasn't been that long ago that I learned this aspect of it. I assumed that there were female interpreters who, were doing the letter interpreting, and the girl was dictating and she was writing the letter. But when I found the ugly truth that they could have been a boy or a girl, and they were actually the ones writing, and the girl didn't even know. And what I do know personally is that the interpreters do the writing for this group of profiles, and they write to the men who are writing letters, and they never contact the girls unless the girl is an active participant, and that's rare. Most of the time they don't even know the letters are being written. And so the man thinks he's writing to Sveta, and he's actually writing to Igor. Or whatever. And
I think would you agree it depends probably on the size of the agencies? There are some like boutique type agencies that have a few hundred girls, but then there's the big industry behemoths, which we won't mention, but you can find out pretty easily online which are the big boys, and those ones have well-oiled machines with pre-written letters.
Absolutely.
And letter 1, 2, 3, up to 30 pre-written letters, and you can tell sometimes if it's pre-written, if they're responding to you or not.
Well, if you do this long enough, you learn, if you're going to do the letter writing thing, you learn the trick pretty quick to ask specific questions and demand specific answers. And if you don't get the right answer, then you can be pretty sure you're not writing to a real woman, the real woman. You've got somebody else, So you bail out of that, but even no matter how good the letter sounds and how nice the pictures are and everything else, you get out of that one.
Because you don't want to be talking to Igor.
Yeah, you're not talking to the woman.
It's money just flushed down the toilet. You're wasting your time, and you're developing feelings for this picture. Falling in love with the picture, and it's really Igor that you're corresponding with.
It is.
It's really quite vile.
It's a dangerous trap to get caught in because it's a virtual trap. You're in this virtual reality, and you're falling in love with a picture, a photograph, and a false profile.
And it's easy because you're still at your home in America or in Canada, wherever you are, and it's easy to write letters back and forth. You're really not investing much in terms of...
It doesn't feel like much
until
you start counting up the costs. You know, in 1 year, how many letters you wrote, and see how many thousands of dollars you invested.
I met a man that had spent $10,000.
Holy cow!
Yes, on one woman over 8 months. So letter writing, would we agree that's the biggest scam in terms of the industry? My research shows it's over $1 billion a year.
Wow.
The mail order bride, the marriage agency industry in the Ukraine and Russia. So the majority of it is made by letter writing.
I believe so. That's what I was told by my girlfriend who worked in this industry.
Right.
And she said it's the letter writing. And even the emails, when you buy their information, the email that you purchase is sent directly to the agency. And the same woman will answer the emails. So you're not actually getting her personal email part of the time, some of the time. It could be not, there's a percentage that are genuine.
And let's give some tips as we go along.
Sure.
Here.
Yeah.
So a tip that I have to make sure to see if it's really let's say Olga that you're talking to is look at the URL. If it's Olga at Ukraine Top Models or some URL, and you go to the website and you can see it's really a bogus website, which is often the case. You can rest assured that it's a scam. But it happens to be Olga at Olga123 or a year at Gmail or at .ru or Yahoo. Chances are it might indeed be Olga, depending on what sites you're at.
I agree, and if somebody's willing to follow up the header and stuff and do that, they can learn pretty quick. The
other thing, let me just
go ahead.
The other thing is ask for a Skype conversation. Ask for their Viber, so you can connect on Viber. Everybody in the Ukraine pretty much is on Viber. Not everybody, but most. It's the most commonly used. They don't use WhatsApp here. They use Viber.
Viber is very
common.
Skype,
Viber, ask for a cell phone number. If they tell you they don't have a cell phone, it's absolutely a lie.
And
Babushka in Siberia has a cell
absolutely.
phone.
Everybody has at least one.
And
they would probably leave the house without any clothes on before they'd leave without their phone.
Because in fact, most people have two.
Yes. The other aspect of this, the email that I've encountered, and my girlfriend has told me, is that they try very hard to redirect you back into letter writing, especially if you feel like the man has made a connection with this profile. So they will say something like, I can't write because I don't have a translator, or I can't afford internet, I don't have Wi-Fi at my house, or I can't go down to the internet cafe because I don't have time after work. And so let's just write letters back and forth. So the agency redirects you back into the letter writing.
But in fact, everybody has a computer. Maybe not a laptop, but they'll have an older desktop.
Almost everybody. And if they don't, they've got a phone that has internet everywhere in the whole country. You've got Wi-Fi. So they can answer the letters, your email, right directly on their smartphone.
They've got cheap smartphone brands in Russia. They don't have a lot of them iPhones or Samsungs unless they have a bit of money, but there's cheap brands.
Well, they all have smartphones. They all can answer their emails.
I'd say 95% have smartphones. Okay. What other big scams are there from, let's say, the ladies that are maybe private practice? So there'd be just lady scammers out there, and then there's agencies. So the lady scammers, what are some typical scams that you've seen?
Well, I have had a number of them attempted on me, and honest to God, I fell for a few of them, so I've learned the hard way too.
Me too.
The send me money is a huge one, and it comes in all different forms, whether it's send me money for a new telephone, or I need a new computer because anytime they ask for money, unless you have a relationship with them and know them already, just beware. That's a really high-risk operation.
Let me chime in. Even if you know them already, I've been corresponding on Skype with a girl and with a lady, and all of a sudden her computer broke, and you used to Skyping and you see their face, and we were doing that for a month, and she said, my computer broke. Can you send me money? Is it possible to buy a computer? And I wanted to continue talking to her. So you send $1,000 over, and that's a huge amount of money. That's
Huge.
actually a year of income for the average Ukrainian. in
Yeah,
swimming.
darn near. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So it's
So a
huge.
year of income they got,
One whack.
one whack. So you can see what the motivation is for them to do it.
And how many other guys is she Skyping to with the same scam? You know, you don't know until you've actually done a face-to-face and have a relationship. When you have not met them yet, you don't know how many other men they're saying the same things to, and they're working the same tugging on the same heartstrings. It's an emotional thing when a guy gets involved like that.
That's the worst.
And
I mean,
it hurts.
what are some of the ones we were talking off camera, some of the other heartstring ones? Send me money for?
Yeah, I had one that I thought I had built a relationship with. It sounded really great. I mean, you know, we hooked up, I thought. Well, lo and behold, her mother had a car accident and was in the hospital with emergency surgery, and she needed X amount of dollars immediately, because the surgeon wanted a deposit up front before he would even begin the operation, and she was on life support. I mean, it went on. Man, I mean, it just was it was a really good script. I mean, it just tore my guts out reading this because it sounded so real and genuine.
Right.
And honestly, I bit.
Well,
it was like, oh, but my humanity just rose up, and I just wanted to help, and so I sent $300 or $400, whatever it was. Last letter I ever got from her. Never heard from her again. How long have you
been talking to her? Corresponding by letter?
A couple of months.
And letter, no Skype, no.
No, just letters. Off of agency.
Off of an agency.
Off agency. The
girl was from an agency.
I originally met her on an agency, and eventually got her private information, and we continued the communication and sent pictures back and forth.
So
it was
straight away from the agency, broke the rules and gave you her personal contact information?
I bought her personal contact information from the agent. Well, that's how you usually do it. You end up buying it or paying enough money for the letters and stuff that you can get it. And then you have a one-to-one, supposedly, communication. And we sent letters back and forth, pictures. I mean, it was...
So it seemed real to you.
The pictures were absolutely real. I mean, showed her in a garden and everything else, going to church.
So wholesome.
I mean, it was so wholesome. And
Such a good girl.
Oh, my
Her
God.
mama's in the hospital.
What are you going to do?
Well, you got to send some money, help mama. What about child is sick?
Oh, yes. Many different ways.
All kinds of things. I've heard of, I haven't personally experienced, things like send money for, I need to work on my visa to come see you.
Yes.
Send me money for a plane ticket. No, you would never want to do that. You'd buy the plane ticket before you'd ever send money. You basically don't want to send money for anything.
Bottom line
There's so many heartstrings. Flowers. Flowers. Through an agency, you can buy flowers, and then there's all kinds of scams, from anywhere from plastic flowers to real flowers and a photo, and then they give the flowers back to the flower shop, and the flower shop refunds all the money except for a few hryvnia. And so you think they got the flowers, and they charge you $100 for the flowers.
Yeah,
they're not cheap.
I mean, you charge you a bouquet of roses, and they may charge you $100 US for it. But you can buy that bouquet of roses for here in Ukraine, anywhere, in any flower shop, for $10 tops. You know, and they make a ton of money on flowers and other gifts as well. Candy, they want to sell you boxes of candy to give to gifts. Well, I agree it takes a little bit of time for them to go and produce the product and stuff, but 10 to 20 times the cost in Ukraine for what they charge you.
Exactly.
It's huge. Huge amount of money there.
There's a lot of, through agencies, when you come to Ukraine and meet the girl, there's a lot of how you say, where they tag on the price.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of
Introduction fees. Interpreter, you pay $20 an hour US for an interpreter. Now, I won't badmouth the interpreters that I have met, and most of them are very genuine, honest people. I used one who was a young lady, and I particularly like her, here in Sumi, and she's a lawyer by trade and works for a large company that has gone downhill and with the economy, and she's hasn't been paid for like almost 2 months now. and she works in the legal department, and she does interpreting on the side to make a few extra dollars. Well, the $20 an hour that you pay the interpreter is not the interpreter you're paying. The interpreter gets $5 an hour probably at the most, and the agency keeps the other $15 an hour.
Which that's part of it. Fair enough.
It's business.
It's business.
I never complain about that because that's
me too. It's
that's the cost of doing business.
Everybody has markups.
Yeah.
But it's the other things like you had a limo experience.
Oh yeah, terrible limo experience. You know,
And
I said call a taxi. A taxi would have cost $1.50 to take us to the restaurant each way. You know, U.S. But they called their private taxi, who was the husband of the owner of the agency with his Audi or whatever, which is nice, and charged me I think $60 U.S. to take me back and forth.
Instead of $1.50.
Instead of a $3 round trip, it was a $60 round trip, which I didn't know until I got back.
Yeah.
You know.
And so that's not exactly fair.
It's not. It's and they don't tell you ahead of time.
Yeah.
You have to ask a lot of questions.
Things like that.
Yeah.
What about apartments? They'll rent you an apartment.
They certainly will.
And they'll charge double the apartment rate.
I've never fallen for that,
agencies.
so I think you're probably right. They're going to charge a surcharge on that.
Well, it's double.
Double, yeah.
It's more than a surcharge.
I just haven't been caught in that trap, but yes, I've heard it many times.
Art, let me ask you, in the marriage agency industry, the mail order bride industry as it's referred to, it's over $1 billion, as I said, in Ukraine and Russia. Of that money intake, of that $1 billion a year in revenue, what percentage of it in the industry do you think is fraudulent versus legitimate? Based on your experience.
Yeah, based on my experience and people I've talked to, people I've known in the industry, probably a full 90% of it is fraudulent in the sense that it's just a way of separating you from your money. You're not really getting anything for it. Letter writing scams and all that. I think it's fully 90%.
And you were saying off camera, you think it's borderline criminal, like it's really bad?
I think it is. I feel like if it was legitimate, you were legitimately conversing back and forth with a real woman, who then it wouldn't be. But I don't think that's happening. In my experience and my knowledge, it's not most of the time, 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, if it was in America, it would be fraudulent.
Yeah.
It would be criminally fraudulent.
Criminal. Misrepresentation.
Yeah, here it's acceptable practice. It's buyer beware.
It is.
So, you take these huge chances. You live in a virtual world by writing these letters back and forth. And this is the risk you take.
Let's talk about how the agencies work.
Sure.
Typically, the man in America or the Western world sees a beautiful model, 25, 30 years old, and he's 50 or 60 or whatever.
Sure.
And she says on the profile, I'm looking for a man from 45 to 65, and he's 55, so he figures, oh, wow, it's great. She's interested in possibly me. He starts writing her. As we said earlier, he ends up talking to Igor instead. Igor is responding on behalf of her. He develops this relationship with her, as he thinks. It goes on for months. He spends typically thousands of dollars. And then he gets up the nerve to say, you know what, Olga, let's say her name is, I'm coming to the Ukraine to see you. It's my vacation coming up. What do? Do they want the Western man to come?
No, definitely not.
Why not?
Definitely not, because if he comes here, then he'll find the truth that he's not been writing to this woman. And even if he meets the same woman, she's going to be, who are you?
Cold as a fish.
Because they have no relation. He has built this false expectation up.
He's built a relationship with Igor.
Yes, and the picture.
And the picture.
And the photograph.
Fall in love with the photo.
Right, so even if they were to come and have a genuine meeting, this woman would just sit there and would not be a participant in this. She would be paid to come there and sit for an hour, and then all of a sudden she'll have a birthday she has to attend to, or a wedding, or a girlfriend calls her and say, help, type of thing, and she's gone, and that's it. And the man is done, because that's the end of it. Not going to have nothing else. And then I had that happen several times. And then the first thing they do, of course, the interpreter says, "Well, we know some other ladies that you would really like, and we'll be glad to introduce them to you." Yeah, at $100 a head, they'll introduce you to all kinds of. Yes.
And in the meantime, your heart's broken.
What happened?
You had a relationship with this lady for
Yeah,
months
yeah.
online, letter writing, poured your heart and soul out to her. It's not her you're talking to. She's not interested in you.
Not
They
at
pay
all.
her to show up.
Common.
Very, very,
Very common, very tragic,
Very
very
tragic.
common. And I can speak firsthand with that. Experiences numerous times that I've been taken by that one.
Right.
So it's a terrible trap to get caught in, the letter writing. I'm not sure that I could really, in good conscience, recommend anybody get caught up in these letter writing schemes, even though they do occasionally will work. I think that I would look for a much better approach. Were I to do this with my experience, and were I to do this again 8 years ago,
Okay, tell
I
us.
would not go through the letter writing deals. I just invested way more money and time and heartache in it than I ever got out of it. I would look for a legitimate service that maybe vets and interviews and does profile research on ladies and gentlemen that are interested, serious people. Not just ones who want to play, but I mean serious people who are seriously looking for marriage and a relationship. And try to match the two together in real life. Not in letter writing and where you're dreaming about something that doesn't exist, will never exist. Your expectations are way out of whack.
And in the industry, have you seen such agencies that
No.
legitimately are looking to make money matching a man and a woman?
No.
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 They don't.
It's a byproduct. It's an unfortunate byproduct for, I think, in the industry. It's for
That
them.
once in a
while, somebody will get married, and they make a big issue out of it. I mean, you'll see them plaster pictures, but there'll be 1 or 2 or 3, maybe at the most, and then they'll have a stable of 2,000 women, and maybe they have a marriage and make a big issue out of it. But it's a tragic byproduct for them because it ends their cash flow for that person in that marriage.
So the intent of the industry, the whole industry, is not to make happy couples and happy marriages.
No,
It's to make money.
It's to make money. They're businesses, and they don't want. It's like being a drug addict. They don't want you getting loose of the drug habit. They want to keep you hooked.
So this begs the question: is there legitimately a lot of beautiful single ladies in the Ukraine looking for a good man to marry, whether he be Ukraine or from the Western world? Is there a big need for that? Is there a lot of lonely, single, beautiful women in the Ukraine?
More than you can possibly imagine. It is a country filled with wonderful women, beautiful women, women who have been disappointed with the men in their own country, either bad marriages, abusive situations. There's just a wide variety. But single women here that desperately want a beautiful family. They're not desperately wanting sex or desperately wanting a green card in another country. They want a real family. They're looking for a real man, a real family. To try to find those women on your own is one of them very difficult. If you speak Russian very well, then you may be able to succeed on your own.
Because most of them don't speak English
Most of
very
them don't
well.
speak English.
So there's a big need and demand.
Yes.
These ladies are looking to find a good husband, legitimately can't find their man in the Ukraine for whatever reason. So my huge question is, why is this ugly industry taking advantage of the woman and the man? Both are victims. Both want something the other has. Why isn't there legitimate, honest agencies looking to match people for love and marriage?
It's money. It's a money-driven industry, and we play into that as foreign men. We're not happy with what we have available to us in the country we live in. We see these magnificently beautiful women, that supermodel type, or even some that are not supermodel type, but still are amazing women, looking for men, and we go, wow, why can't that be me? Well, it's
interesting because it can be you is the reality.
Yes, it can be.
But we're jaded from all these cons and scams, and we see the YouTube videos and hear the horror stories, and we think the whole industry, well, we think the ladies are bad.
Oh, no, no.
But indeed, it's the industry that's bad. It's
Right.
the agencies, right? The ladies, there's a lot of good ones. Yes, there's some scammers out
Yeah, there is.
and there's some gold diggers. There's ones with, poor and bad intentions. But there are a lot of good ladies.
Incredible number of them. I don't even know what the statistics are, but
I don't
I'll
either.
bet there's two eligible marriage-seeking women for every man in Ukraine, a Ukrainian man. I don't know, but it's enormous amount of them.
Well, I know there's a shortage of men by a million in Ukraine and Russia. 1 million less men than women in Ukraine and Russia. And plus with the war, and plus, let me ask you, what does a Ukrainian lady tell you when you ask her, why are you single? You're 32 and you've been single. Why are you single? Why you can't find a good Ukrainian man? Why did you come to an agency? What do they tell you?
Most of them, at times I get an answer, a straight answer. It will be, I've been disappointed with the men in my own country. And I'll maybe say, why? Explain to me why. Well, they drink too much. They're lazy. They're not serious. They just want to play.
Sleep around.
Sleep around,
Can't trust
exactly. Can't trust them.
Infidelity's big.
Yeah, and they're not reliable. They're not good providers. These ladies can be really practical about some things. They want their heart touched, but they're also pretty practical.
They are pragmatic.
And so they have had really bad experiences. They don't see any possibility to find a good husband in Ukraine. Their idea is they're already taken. So they expand their search out. Maybe they know somebody who was successful. And so it's, well, we're going to try foreign men. They have an idea that foreign men are better than their men. They're either more gentlemanly like, they're more serious, they're more reliable, they're better providers, they're more romantic, and so on. Yeah, and it is true. The men who come here generally are much better. And so they are looking elsewhere. Don't think for a minute that these women are just looking for a free ticket to America or Germany.
Which is our biggest fear, isn't it?
It is not that way. I've asked so many of them, and vast majority would be just as happy if you moved here and lived with them here.
I mean, that's a litmus test, isn't it, for the good ones?
It is for me.
Because, yeah, it is for me too. If they want to stay in the Ukraine, because it's a huge deal for them to pick up,
huge,
unplug their whole life, their family, their language, their culture, and they have a really rich culture, richer than ours.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Family's really tight, tighter than our family networks back home.
Unfortunately.
So to leave all that and go to America or to go to another country is a huge deal for them. So when you find a really good one, often she doesn't want to leave the Ukraine.
No, not until she'll say that I've got to learn to trust you first. Bingo. You've got to prove to me you're reliable. What is my life going to be like if I do marry you and go to a different country? What's going to happen? Where are we going to live? How are we going to live?
How am I going to overcome all of these obstacles?
Absolutely.
Are you going to be supportive? And so I've experienced the same thing. Once they trust you, which might take a few trips to be realistic, right? Talking to the Western might take a few trips.
It's going to take some time.
To think you're going to come to the Ukraine and propose marriage in a week?
Yeah, well...
And they're going to accept, and you're going to live happily ever after?
If they say yes, generally the next thing, well, will you support me now that I've said yes? No, I don't. That's kind of... I shouldn't have said that, I guess, but it's true to some extent.
We're talking again about how do you know if it's a genuine girl versus a girl that has hidden agenda.
They want to build a relationship. They're not going to generally. These are real women with real feelings, real emotions, real desires, real wants. These are not, Barbie dolls, and they're not little toys. These women do. These women will. If you try to treat them like some little toy and play with them around, boy, they'll pick that up in a heartbeat and you'll be walking. These are real women. Yeah. They are worth the effort. Awesome women.
They are. They're beautiful. They're smart, intelligent, very catering to the man. They want their man to be happy. They'll do anything for him. Is that your experience?
Yes, once that connection's made,
Yeah,
once that commitment's made,
once you're
the
there.
relationship is built, it may take you a little time,
Mm-hmm.
but once the commitment is there, they're yours.
Once they call you my man,
Yeah, that's it.
they'll do anything for
Almost.
you.
They're just amazing women.
Contrast that to the Western girl.
And I can tell you that 99% of these women are excellent cooks. I mean,
They love to cook, and they love you to love the food.
yes, they do. They'll put weight on you in a heartbeat.
Got to be careful of that.
Yeah,
I hear
yeah.
ya. Hi, it's Stuart Cards here, and I really hope you're getting a ton of value out of my free interview series that I call The Ugly Truth About the Marriage Agency or Mail Order Bride Industry here in Ukraine and Russia. You know, now I've talked to over 50 Ukrainian women to really understand what's the truth, what is the true picture of this marriage agency industry in the Ukraine, and several employees of marriage agencies, so you can hear directly from them what all the cons and scams are that you absolutely are going to want to know about so you can avoid them. And most importantly, in this interview series, the conclusion is, which was my personal conclusion, is that yes, there is a genuine opportunity. There are a ton of beautiful, smart, talented, sexy, educated younger Ukrainian women that are happy to marry you, the Western man. And you'll learn that it's a real opportunity. These are real women. You're going to learn what it's going to take to win the heart of one of these Ukrainian beauties, what the path to your success might be. You're going to also learn what all the landmines are that you're going to need to avoid. And I'm happy to share with you my contacts, because I've discovered a few precious diamonds in the rough marriage agencies that are not only all about money, they care about you finding an amazing Ukrainian woman and marrying her and living happily ever after. So shoot me an email and I'd be happy to share my resources with you. Okay, so that said, I hope you're enjoying the interview series, and keep an eye out for the next one.